Hi everyone, I'm James Warren, lead partner of Harrison James, and I'm really excited to be part of this year's SIAM conference and the first to present on this morning of day two, especially being as it's our first time at this amazing conference. I hope you've all had your coffee and are ready to go. So, first up, a little bit about us. We've been going for just over 8 years and we specialise in SIAM, service management and ITOM transformations, working across our whole wide of sectors and markets. We feel we've got a different approach to how we deliver our services and we want to provide a real change in the market by removing the templated, formulaic approach to service and creating a bespoke experience that addresses an ever-evolving information technology need. Today, we have two of our lead architects to support me, Leon Knoll and Paul Barker, and we'll be taking you through a number of hot SIAM topics for today's conference. So the topics we're going to cover today are why SIAM and why not SIAM. Failure starts in the design phase. The SIAM organisation, the people factor. Getting the journey right. SIAM the market view. And why SIAM isn't just good for IT. I will now hand over to Paul for the first topic of the day. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks, James. Morning, everybody. So as James said, I'm going to take you through a bit of to SIAM or to not SIAM, and a few bullet points around that. We're going to start with the why SIAM, and I'll talk around those bullets. Right. So SIAM's not a fix-all. It's not a silver bullet. And effectively, we've got a number of bullet points that are around why we should, or when you should consider doing that. So first one, it's kind of obvious, but it kind of needs calling out as well. So you might have multiple suppliers, you might have moved to multiple suppliers, or be on that journey, or start in that journey around moving away from a monolithic contract. So effectively, enabling or changing the org, changing the operating model to be able to effectively manage multiple suppliers. And the benefit that brings is that it's a change in culture, it's a change in governance, and it's effectively managing those multiple suppliers. It may be right for you if suppliers, if you've got that in place and there's supplier to supplier communication and collaboration is failing, so that putting that altered model in place is about making sure that we've got the right governance structure and controls to be able to effectively manage those suppliers. So the benefits that you get in that are a good overall service being considered rather than the own element of that service. Supports communication, collaboration, and effective management across that SIAM journey. Suppliers are more in control of their IT, your IT destiny than the internal IT. So another reason that a current theme is that suppliers are driving what can and cannot be delivered via IT, and you haven't got the overall control. It's effectively you've given the keys to the kingdom away, and effectively putting a SIAM model in place enables you to get that regain that control through governance, commercial arrangements, and enables the suppliers to be plug and play through good commercial arrangements and contracts. Your demand for new services takes longer, so time to market is critical, and slow delivery hampers the business strategy. Putting an effective SIAM model in place enables the service life cycle to be high quality, getting that design right as one of the things we'll talk about in another section. Making sure that you have that ability is key, and also making sure that it's onboarding of new suppliers can be done. Non-performance suppliers. How many times have we seen that people are just allowed, or companies are allowed to get away with it, and they're not replaced? Effective commercials that are put in place to make sure that suppliers are held to account for their part of the service, but also the overall part of the service, and getting collaboration going and such like is key. So enabling that swap in and swap out and getting the right contract value is another benefit that SIAM brings if it's set up correctly. Poor customer experience, or poor CSAT. So sorry, I lost my point. Users and customers have a greater awareness of what good looks like. So the IT world that comes into a workplace from their home place or such like needs to be managed and needs to be provided a good customer experience to the user base. By engagement and making sure that we understand what the customers are doing, then the SIAM benefit is that the organisation has a focus on the customer need, and getting the model right is key, and getting the improvements and sort of the engagement with the business to understand where those poor points are will help in getting the SIAM model correct, and obviously the service provision then correct. If the IT services do not support the goals and objectives of the business, so again, getting that close alignment, getting that close engagement with the business to understand what the service portfolio needs to be and how that can be designed, getting service brokers to be working with the business, getting the good engagement enables a good understanding of what that journey might look like and how it needs to change. We need to work closely with business leaders, understand that strategic direction. And the benefit that then that brings is about getting the change, add and remove of services, and making sure that our suppliers are performant across that service stack. Sometimes our business functions or your business functions may not trust you and effectively then source their own IT services. Getting that sort of demand, making sure that there are service provision is understood, and that they're getting that trust back and building that relationship is key. And it is only going to occur through clear relationships and good building of relationships and maintaining those relationships with the business to understand the strategic direction. The SIAM roles that we would put in would be would enable that. Next one is about companies not meeting regulatory requirements, failing audits, or not even meeting legislation. So there's a great need to meet the regulatory and legislative requirements with penalties and failures. It's severe. So ensuring that is built into the SIAM governance, and especially at the design phase, making sure it's built in and to how the services are delivered, and how the commercials are underpinned to make sure that suppliers understand those rules. Make sure that it's built effectively and that it's at the heart of the design. So that's the whys. I suppose the why nots. So if you are only have a single supplier, again, well, SIAM is about managing multiple suppliers. So a single supplier, that's probably not going to work. So it's a different model would be selected. Speed. So a rush SIAM is not usually a good SIAM. So taking the time to make sure that we understand the volume, the complexity, how the org needs to work, how the supply chain needs to work, then that's a key activity. A large number of transformations in the SIAM space are actually corrections or failed of partial implementation. So thinking you're going to do it in a hurry, think again. Best practice, SIAM without a good ITSM capability, as an analogy, it's like a pie without the filling. So it looks good, but it hasn't got any substance. So adopt and mature your ITSM part of your SIAM roadmap, whether that's delivery or assurance. You'll need these skills to ensure your suppliers and the internal teams are working together and the collaboration across the group. But it's a key piece, best practice. So build service. So if there are no suppliers, then there's no SIAM. So again, pretty much similar to the single supplier one. Weakness. SIAM demands that supplier and commercial capabilities are specifically strong. If you have all carrot and no stick, then the suppliers will rule the roost. So it's key that strong sort of internal function ensures you address that at the start of the SIAM journey. Wrong drivers. So if you think that just outsourcing is going to fix the problem, or you're handing over accountability, think again. Outsourcing can be an economic and practical way to deliver services, but you need to have that control. It's not a fix-all. The last one there, tech. So too often tools are seen as that it's going to fix everything. And if you think that's at the top of it, and if you're progressing along that route, then stop, think again. You need to get all the elements of the service provision with people, process partners to come into the SIAM, and making sure that it's tooling is just part of it and it comes later. So do the first part well, and then the tooling part will come later and should underpin that design. Thanks for listening to that section. I hope that was okay. I'm going to hand over to Leon to talk about the take us through why SIAM, or why failure in SIAM starts at the design phase.
So let's talk about now how SIAM failure or conversely success starts in the design phase. SIAM is no different to any other methodology, as you need to get a good foundation in the design phase, and we'll look at some of the common design errors and how to prevent them. Okay, so the first topic we're going to talk about is that lack of vision and urgency at the start of a SIAM. Like any significant IT change, we need to be able to communicate what that vision is and see how that long-term journey is communicated effectively. If it's not done, then this leaves the stakeholders in a sort of so what moment, not really knowing why we're on this path, how it benefits the organisation, and what the end state vision is. IT leadership, business leadership, all need to set out the vision for SIAM change and demonstrate the conviction to succeed. This should be an easy to understand view of the future that clarifies the direction and longer term, up to 5 years. This helps that create a common view and clearly state that target for the future. Okay, the next area is around getting a baseline of your current state. I know it's an oldie, but it's certainly a goodie. Without baselining where we're at today, what the quality of service is, how our processes perform, how our people perform, then we're not going to know whether we've reached our target in SIAM, to know that we've got there and to know how we're performing against it or how far away we are. This isn't just an SLA thing. This is about how people, process, partners, products, all the P's, all the usual P's, to ensure now our SIAM implementation has improved or landed as required. Okay, the next section, really important that we get a clear capability-based TOM. A change to a SIAM is a real major undertaking and requires thought and planning around which capabilities we need, how they integrate across the enterprise, how they're sourced, and how people and partners need to be pulled together and organised. The creation of the TOM sets out that high level, but it needs to be designed and implemented. Better to make your mistakes early, highlight the challenges whilst you're in design mode and on paper, than discover in the build or transition. Okay, the next one is making sure that we engage with our customer, our user base, our business stakeholders. All too often in IT projects, and SIAM's no different, we get a bit of a done-to culture. You get what you get, guys. IT knows best. Really, in the long run, this causes more chaos, cost, mistrust than you want. Engage early, engage regularly, and get the buy-in acceptance from all stakeholders to prevent rather than cure later on. If you get this, like all good volunteer armies, yeah, everyone's going to help you along the way, or certainly understand what the good reasons are for moving to a SIAM model. Okay, next one is around tooling. Really common that we come across organisations that think by buying the best tool on the market is going to create the best SIAM. We've talked previously around the over-focus on technology. Again, in the design phase, keep the same even balance. Make sure we're considering our people, our processes, obviously our suppliers, and the tool alone is not gonna make it work, but it does complement. So if we do all those things well, really, it's going to enable the tool to give us the best outcomes. Yeah, we'll understand what we needed to do and how we needed to do it. Okay, another common challenge in the design phase is around understanding our budgets, right? Sometimes we sort of set our budgets at the start and we say, well, we'd like to spend X before we've even done a design. We've got to make sure that we understand it first, that we've got that design in place so we can talk competently around what that budget is. If we don't do that, then what happens is as we go through, what we'll find is that our suppliers, our partners, and within ours suddenly bolt on extras, things that we didn't know and understand, and our budget starts to bloat. So really make sure we've spent the time on that good design so we understand all of the costs that are in there. Okay, next one, it's around alignment with the business strategy, the planning. If we don't have any alignment with the business need and the direction, then why are we doing this at all? The introduction of SIAM should align to the overall business need and not just be IT focused. Ensure that the SIAM design process is aligned to the business strategy and its success is measured not just in IT terms, but in enabling business success. Okay, we should consider the whole life cycle and all IT services. Sometimes there seems to be too much of a focus on operations or infrastructure. SIAM's for the whole of all of IT services and for the whole life cycle. Operations is obviously critical in SIAM, but without a full life cycle view, the quality of services coming into operations could be poor. Embrace that whole life cycle with your partners and with your business stakeholders alike, and you'll see the quality of your service increase. Okay, we need to consider all frameworks and methodologies when designing your SIAM, not just ITIL. Big fan of ITIL, worked with it within many years, but there are lots of frameworks and methodologies that need to be considered. Project management, architecture, COBIT, you name it. There's many, and a breadth and depth of best practice activities. ITIL may well be the key framework to consider, but as part of your capability mapping and design, cross-reference with other best practice. We've got some examples we've shown here and how that picture could sort of look across the enterprise. Okay, that sort of takes us through the design phase, and thanks for listening to this. We're going to move straight on to the SIAM organisation and talk about the people factor. People are simply the most important asset you're going to have in selecting and organising and making sure that we look after our people and our talent is critical to our SIAM success. Probably the first area to talk about there is we've already talked about mapping out our capabilities. It's really important. It's really important when it comes to thinking about our organisational design and what roles we're going to need. Yeah, it's critical that we get the organisation right. Without this capability coverage, without understanding it fully, things get missed and potentially not identified. And again, we're left with gaps that we have to fill or address later on. Get that design done well, and yeah, we'll be in a good place. Okay, so drill down a little bit deeper. So make sure we've got our role designs ready before we start recruiting. The role specifications, your objectives, your development plans, team descriptions, interview, everything, the whole pack that you need. The effective design will support all of these role descriptions and supporting materials. Until you've created these, then really you shouldn't start recruiting. As without this, your recruitment partner is going to struggle. It's going to have limited opportunity to succeed. The more detail we can provide, the better chance we get of getting the right people. And people will determine the success of our SIAM. Far too often in IT organisations, there's a lack of focus in role design, and I've encountered numerous people in discovery that have no role description, no objectives, or no development plan. Not a good place to be. Okay, so if we've got our good people, then the journey doesn't start there. Once we've recruited them, let's make coaching part of our SIAM journey. Let's say you've done your organisation design, you've produced some great role descriptions, you've recruited some amazing people. Is that it? No, not really. It's something you've got to keep developing and building to enable your overall SIAM maturity journey. And to help support that, engage coaches to support their development plans. Training has its place. Yeah, knowledge materials have their place, but you cannot beat someone that has that experience working side by side your team members to bring to life that real life experience and knowledge, and talk them through and offer some alternatives and opinions. This really tends to accelerate the maturity of that individual. It helps with the quality. It improves staff satisfaction, retention, and makes them feel valued, and it helps develop their own personal careers as well. So it's a real value add by bringing coaching into your SIAM world. Okay, so when we embark on a SIAM, we've really got to make sure that the whole leadership team within your organisation understand and believe in SIAM. Yeah, it's not just a fancy acronym. Yeah, we've got to really develop that high level of belief across the whole team. Really no room for nodding dogs and people who are just going, yep, that's okay, sounds like a good idea. We want to make sure that we have that effective coalition, that they're going to be our champions. They're going to be talking positively to everyone that they encounter, and create that culture of belief and enthusiasm for SIAM. Any little chinks of doubt or any comments that can go there, we all know that the Chinese whispers start to spread, and that sort of negativity tends to have a bad impact on a SIAM implementation. Okay, so when we're recruiting, another thing to consider is we really want to get people with the right attitude, and personality is key. And you need to think about this and shape this into your interviews. As part of the role design, take into account those soft skills, their outlooks, their personality. Build in the required behaviours into the interview process and test them. These attributes are so important, as will greatly support the relationships needed to make a SIAM successful. People to people are what makes things work. To keep people motivated and to keep people with a sense of drive, provide some targets, incentives, maybe rewards throughout the SIAM journey. Don't just rely on those project milestones. Create a personal set of targets for each team member and for their team as a whole that can support the journey. Get some incentives going and rewards, and most importantly, recognition. Shout out people, for doing good work and keeping their enthusiasm high. You could even introduce some level of gamification or competition into that can create that culture of success. As we're going along, don't stop measuring and developing your SIAM team. It's, again, coming back to that people is your most important bit. It's got to be an ongoing thing. It can't be like done for a few months while we're trying to build it up. You've got to keep that going throughout your whole lifespan. This is all basic management skills, and you'll probably say, well, it's same for anything, but it's true. But again, through our experience, we see that these basic management and people coaching and development skills are overlooked in favour of other skill sets. We'd much rather send somebody, whether it's on some best practice training or some technical training, and we really need to get them developed as we go along. Okay. If we get this right, all of this leads to effective delivery and a highly motivated team. That sort of positivity and professionalism will come through, ultimately making your SIAM a success. Okay, well, you need to create a bit of a structured recruitment campaign, and what I mean by this is that you utilise a recruitment partner, somebody that has worked at doing a recruitment campaign. Support them with a SIAM partner, so somebody who has that relevant, detailed knowledge of implementing, designing, maturing a SIAM installation. This unified plan, that will be put together, is just invaluable to make sure that the right talent is sourced. If it's done in a fractured way, we don't always see that big picture. We don't always sort of bring together that culture and that big picture piece. So getting your partner and your recruitment supplier working together, super important. Okay. And just like we had a partner for recruitment, we're also we need a really good training partner, right? To make sure that we get those right courses, materials that are readily there. So, to support those development plans with the right on and off-site training, with again, a training partner teaming up with a SIAM partner, someone that's delivered a SIAM before, to know what the right courses and the right training approaches are. Create that variety of channels and delivery methods. On-site training, customize, create some specific material related to what you're doing, not generic off the shelf, has a real value. And will have relevance and aid that comprehensive understanding and bring the subject matter to life so that people can bring it into their roles and bring it into their day-to-day delivery. Okay, next is we need to think about the feedback loops. We need to make sure we have that open communication channel with our teams. Creating that open culture where feedback from all levels is listened to. An engaged team that feels valued and listened will perform better. It prevents issues from festering and bring out great ideas maybe from where you least expect. It's really good to sort of to make sure that people have a voice, and that's not just your internal teams. Listen to your suppliers too. Okay, thank you for listening. I'm going to hand over to Paul now, who's going to talk to us about getting the journey right. Over to you, Paul.
Thanks, Leon. Yes, talking about getting the journey right. So we need to make sure they think beyond the go live and the date of the best to get the best out of SIAM. Getting the project done, getting the implementation done. That's the start or the midway point in that end state journey, in accordance with the vision that Leon talked about before. Getting the sort of the target operating model, that Tom, understanding the view, but ultimately this bit is around how does that then manifest into that delivery. So getting a clear roadmap with the maturity milestones for the team to drive that forward. We know SIAM implementation is not a quick fix. Creating a clear roadmap beyond the go live, as well as the maintained reviewed, is required to ensure that the whole teams can see where they fit in. So as the launch points and the maturity journeys go, they can see how that journey is going to improve and get involved and get behind it. So we're making targets clear, cascading them to the team, getting the levels right to the individuals that are involved, and maintaining that communication channel is key. So the benefit you get there, clear understanding, people are behind it, that's business, the team that are doing it, and the supply chain that are involved. We definitely need to, there'll be sort of lumps and bumps along the way as we put the jigsaw puzzle together. But basically shout out when we've succeeded, communicate, tell people, and sort of shout it from the rooftops, do whatever you can. But also listening to people, as Leon was talking about before, learning from failures. You will get those little bumps along the way, things that haven't worked where you sort of maybe thought they would, or planned for them to be successful. But if there has been failures, listen to people, learn from it, adapt, and sort of make sure that everybody is aware of that and how to put it right. Right, okay. Ensure that the improvement opportunity is captured and managed and owned. If we get effective feedback, we're measuring across the SIAM, then we have to be able to, as a method for capturing it and tracking it and making sure that it's improving. A continual improvement mentality right the way across the SIAM ecosystem is key. Adapting that journey, adapting the maturity, and making sure that you're picking the priorities that are relevant to your business. The majority of businesses, they're the same, but they all have their sort of the special points that make them different in the field that they operate. So making sure that the maturity is underpinning that. Provide time for improvement. Don't just think, oh, we'll do that later. It might be pertinent to the delivery. It might be pertinent to the maturity, and it's important to assess that and give people time to do it. One of the themes, I think, through the presentation, encourage the feedback, listen to everybody that's involved, as well as the customers and the SIAM team. Keep listening, making sure that their feedback is informed and goes into that improvement stack, and that any corrections take their experience further. That's the end of that section with regards to the journey. It is about getting the model right and building it out, and making sure that communication is key. But I'll now hand over to James, who's going to talk about the market view.
Hi again. This topic is about looking at the SIAM market and seeing what trends, patterns, and hot topics we've seen and what we think we'll see over the coming years. So first up is about SIAM growth. SIAM continues to grow year on year, so the myths around the demise of SIAM are totally untrue. With the adoption of the multi-supplier model comes a greater need for SIAM. Market experts vary between 7 and 22% anticipated growth over the next 5 years, or to 7. The SIAM integrator. We're seeing a greater appetite to insource the integrator layer in order to retain an even greater level of control, especially in the SME space. That brings us on to the SME adoption. The adoption of SIAM in the SME space we see is a key growth area as the multi-supplier quality risk challenge affects these just as much as the large enterprise. And for the enterprise, the large organizations, while still on that adoption curve, are more likely to be refining, improving, or even in some cases, recovering their SIAM capability. So thank you for listening, and I will now hand over to Leon and Paul to talk about why SIAM is not just good for information technology.
Thanks, James. And now we're going to have a look at why SIAM isn't just good for information technology. We know that SIAM works really well for IT, but actually those same principles can work across the business. So welcome to BIAM. BIAM, Business Integration and Management. It's not a new phrase. I think it's been looked at before, but we see some real opportunities in this. So if first we have a look at shared services. So shared services have been around for a while now, but the utilization of SIAM to orchestrate across these business teams and suppliers is less so. Yeah, I think there's a real opportunity to utilize those same SIAM methods to integrate non-IT services that provide the same benefits to a number of central functions. So if you think about sort of your HR, your finance, your facilities, orchestrating those services that are already greatly connected bring some additional value.
And so cross-functional demand to delivery. So if that operating model, what we talked about before, the engagement with the business, making sure that we understand the strategic direction of the business, and also where the engagement may cross over. So with the SIAM being a full life cycle, early engagement with the business is essential. An early engagement with the SIAM can support the orchestration across multiple functions and suppliers. So as Leon said before, HR, finance, other areas of the business. Well, as I said, your business may well have special areas that could be brought into the fold, and suppliers and the service could be supported in different ways. So getting that information is key. It's maybe aspirational to go beyond the realms, but that target state, that end state vision, it's about making sure that we've got the right sort of connection point and how it could be utilised elsewhere.
And that early engagement, and alignment with the business. So we bang on about this quite a lot, but it's so important. So maybe to help support this, that creating some squads, is one term that is being used quite broadly, that are aligned to products, functions, services, however you want to slice and dice your org, that can support that strategic thinking and early understanding of demand all the way through the life cycle, right the way into BAU delivery and back round the loop again. This creates that dimension that's sometimes lost in a SIAM, that is focused on supplier towers and delivery performance. Aim to be that service broker, starting right at the early doors, working closely with the business, not thinking with that IT perspective straight away. You might have already got BSMs, business service managers, or similar roles doing this, but quite often we see this being passed throughout the organisation, and it doesn't have that ownership all the way through. We've seen this work really well in a number of organisations. We think it's quite a good way of owning something all the way through, having that connection with the business all the way through, and help support that SIAM integration along the way. Okay, thanks for listening to us today. I'm going to hand back to James now to close the session. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
Hiya. So thank you all for your time today, and we hope you've found our presentation really useful. I hope it's provoked some thought, and I hope it's been informative. So we offer a wide range of services that are focused on SIAM, and we'd love the opportunity to talk with you directly at our kiosk later today, or if you just want to explore some of our topics a bit further, feel free to talk to us whenever. We'd also welcome your comments and questions in the Q&A session coming up now. Enjoy the rest of the conference today.